All right. Steelers lose to the Raiders 26-17. With me to talk about it is Nick Farabaugh. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Hope you are as well. Doing fine on this great evening.
You're part of the press, so you watch it from the press box. You didn't have to deal with the craziness of the crowds trying to get in, because I went to the game and that was a little bit crazy.
Yeah, I was at a tailgate for a little bit there, I was walking around from the front side of the stadium to the back side by the Science Center, and I saw that it was very crowded, but I didn't know that they were going to have issues with the tickets apparently as well, scanning them or
Yeah,
something.
yeah. The tickets was a big thing because what happened was everybody's waiting to get in, and the network went down. The Wi-Fi was down. Even cell phone coverage was down. So when you tell people have everything on your phone and then that goes away, that really stinks. And apparently, I guess what you were supposed to do was put it like on your wallet or some other thing or something like that. I didn't know about that. So what was happening was people would go up, they would go through the metal detector, go to show their ticket wasn't available, and was told go back to the back of the line to make sure to go get your ticket. And people were not happy about that. So it was a mess. And it took me about 45 minutes to get in. And you could see at the beginning of the game there was like maybe like 3/4 full the stadium. There people were still trying to get in. So that was crazy. But anyway, the game, is it basically because of the injuries that they lost?
Not entirely. Not entirely. I think it's defensively. I think that's obviously the crux of the issue. I mean, you're missing your number one corner, the fastest linebacker on your team, your star pass rusher that you just paid 80 million guaranteed to, plus a guy that had double-digit sacks last year and Stephon Tuitt, plus your breakout nose tackle from a year ago, plus his backup as well at nose tackle, and then his backup gets dinged up, so you have to move a guy that's not a nose into nose tackle. It was certainly a sad thing watching the defense just get depleted. And listen, I thought they stuck well in there until they couldn't. I mean, to allow really 26 to them with what they were doing, they shut down Darren Waller still. Yes, there were 300 yards elsewhere. You take that. If Waller goes off, they get 30 plus points easily, because trust me, if Waller's going off, it ain't just Waller going off. Everyone's going off with him.
Right.
So it was a thing where you saw the defense just struggle because the offense couldn't pick them up. They were injured, and then they were out on the field every time because the offense kept going off the field. The offense was why they lost this football game, period. And it's not a one-person thing on the offense. Obviously, Ben took the full responsibility for it. He's part of it, but he is not the full thing. It is a lot of issues. And I'll say this, I think that they have kind of an everything problem offensively right now. That's kind of the issue. Everything is not working.
Yeah, it's so frustrating. They really needed the offense to pick up the defense, and it just didn't happen. And it's so frustrating when you have, the defense does its job, and the offense goes out there and it's a 3 and out, or it's a very short drive, and you just give it right back to the defense. God, where do we start? You wrote that no matter what the scheme is, if the offensive line isn't doing its job, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the scheme is. It doesn't really matter what the quarterback or any of the skill position players are. If the offensive line isn't doing its job, nothing's going to happen, and the offensive line is not doing its job.
Pretty simple, right? When they won the Super Bowl, and people point to 08 where the O-line was awful. Ben is not that Ben anymore.
Exactly.
And this is the thing, right? You can have a bad O-line and still potentially win because your quarterback is amazing. Patrick Mahomes last year. Russell Wilson's done it forever in Seattle with a terrible O-line. Just teams like that have bad O-lines that you can see are carried by their quarterback. Ben can't carry this team on his back anymore. He's not that guy anymore. And the O-line, you know, I don't blame them as much in the run game. And I'll say why. I'm certain you're going to ask me about this a little bit later. There's an explanation for me why I think they're not completely to blame for the run game. But I do think that when you look at the passing game, they hinder it a lot. Now, the schematics, we'll talk about that, I guess, too. But Ben doesn't have enough time for long developing concepts. He just doesn't. He's getting hit. He's getting the ball out in 2.5, 2.4 seconds. I think it was 2.4 yesterday, and he still got pressured 18 times and got hit 10. That's just unacceptable. I mean, he's getting it out as quick as anyone in the league, and they still can't protect him. So it doesn't matter if you're running, motion, play action, you're running what Randy Fichtner ran, you're running what Bruce Arians ran, you're running what Todd Haley ran. It doesn't matter. If your O-line can't block, you're going to run into issues a lot offensively, and it limits what you can do. And absolutely, when a quarterback like Ben now, who's limited, who's a game manager, right? When they are a game manager, look at who are game managers that have taken their teams to Super Bowls. 2015, Peyton Manning, game manager. That this is the parallel that's going to be talked a lot about if the Steelers start to win a lot. Can they be the 2015 Broncos? That defense is great. Peyton had a great surrounding cast, and they kept him upright. Can Ben have that type of protection? Right now, he's not, and that's the fundamental difference between these two teams when you compare those. So he needs that O-line to play well in order for him to play well, because, again, coincidentally, and I said this too yesterday, the O-line played well against Buffalo in the second half. They protected him, and it was also his best half of the year. He was playing well in that second half, and the offense moved the ball. They scored 16 points alone in that half, I believe. So, I mean, that's almost more than what they scored all of yesterday. So, O-line protects better. I think you see a lot of things fixed, maybe not everything, but most of the stuff that you're seeing wrong right now will probably be fixed at the O-line play as well.
Right now, it's the same thing. It's the same exact situation as last year. You wrote that basically the Ravens figured them out last year, and it hasn't changed. It's the same. You play, you defend something the same way, and they can't stop it. And it seems like all Ben does when he throws is those short little passes, or he tries to throw some bomb. And the weird thing is, I hear you and a lot of people say the middle of the field never gets attempted. Never an attempt to throw to the middle of the field, except for that one preseason game against Detroit. Is that just because he doesn't have time?
This is what the issue is. So teams are doing single high coverage. So you're essentially just having a safety sit in the middle of the field. So the middle of the field is closed, essentially. So in order to open up that middle of the field, you have to somehow put that safety in trouble, right? You have to put him in conflict, or you have to get those linebackers to bite up, right? Something like this, because again, the Raiders were they were in single high essentially the linebackers just dropped back 5 yards and played the sticks. It was a pretty good game. Ben would have had to throw a very tough ball over the middle of the field, or he would have had to get his playmakers underneath. Early, they chose the playmakers underneath. Eventually, they started to say, screw this, and started to go over the top. That's when they started to find a little bit more success, but Ben couldn't hit the deep ball with success. So the middle of the field is closed. It's not open. So how do you open that up? Well, one way is to hit more of those passes outside the numbers. The ones to Deontay Johnson, to Chase Claypool, have a few more of those. They had 2 yesterday. If that can become, that's a positive. If this can become more, consistent, if Ben can hit a few more of those balls on the outside to Chase, Juju, Deontay, Washington, now that Deontay's hurt, right? They could have a thing where teams just have to play coverage differently against them, because they can't let the big plays happen outside the numbers, and that'll open up the middle of the field. The other way to do it is to put that middle of the field safety in conflict. So when on that Waller touchdown, for example, the Steelers were in single high, right? Same kind of deal. Linebackers were kind of dropped back. Schobert, I believe, was on Waller on that play at the sticks. It was a zone coverage underneath. And then you looked Minka bit on it, and they hit Ruggs over the top. Steelers can do the same thing here. Freiermuth, 10 yards, Claypool over the top. You have to choose one, right? So who are you going to choose? You're going to choose to get Claypool over the top and make Ben hit the deep ball, in which case he can hit that deep ball much more accurately because it's the middle of the field, right? Just easier to throw in the middle of the field than it is outside the numbers. Or you choose to take Claypool and then you just target Freiermuth right over the middle of the field in a one-on-one coverage, and he'll just body you. That's exactly what they have to do. They have to put that safety in conflict in some manner, in some way. And I think that has to be the crux of the game plan to crack that single high code. But again, this was a problem going back to last year as well. They never targeted the middle of the field. So is it a Fichtner Canada problem, or is it a Big Ben problem? And this is what we have to know.
Right.
I don't know what it is, but they need to start developing things over the middle of the field because it's the most fertile area of the field for quarterbacks around the league. And Ben's an outlier in pretty much everything that's good for other quarterbacks. And that's weird. But but you look at the stats across the board when he targets the middle of the field, he's way more successful. So he's not an outlier in that area. He's worse with play action, but in the middle of the field, he's just as accurate as anyone.
It's crazy. There was a point yesterday where the offense was actually doing well. I think it was one of the touchdown drives, and it seemed like it was no huddle. But then we learned there really is no more no huddle. Did they take it? Did they take that away from Ben?
So it's interesting. Ben basically said we don't have a no huddle. We have 2-minute drill plays, basically. So basically the no huddle is the 2-minute drill. Now, I don't know if that gives them flexibility to call this here and go no huddle, say in like the middle of the third quarter, and they'll just use those plays. But Ben said they didn't have a no huddle package. And if you know Ben, I mean, they probably should use a no huddle package. Although, did they even have one last year? I mean, they were going no huddle, but he said he was drawing plays in the dirt. So did they have one last year? I don't even know if they did last year, but yeah, no, I think it's if that 2-minute drill, if they don't have something where they can say, yeah, we can run this whenever we want. And it's basically, this is our offense in 2 minutes. And maybe, that also includes no huddle when we want it. If that's not spoken, then yeah, it's a huge issue because Ben is good at no huddle. And we've talked about that before. So you can't take away one of Ben's biggest strengths, which is going up tempo.
So what is wrong with the offensive line, and is there hope that the offensive line can get better?
Well, there's a lot of things wrong with the offensive line. I think one is inexperience. I think Green and Moore have shown good stuff at times. At times they've been beaten. It's just they're a 3rd-round rookie and a 4th-round rookie. It's tough to expect those guys to come in and be great in day one. Now, they'll be good. I think they'll be better. I think those two guys are the two guys that I feel good about growing as the season comes on. They have flashes already. They just got to learn things, right? They got to learn the NFL. So I think they'll learn as the play continues to grow, the game slows down for them, they'll learn. And if it's not this year, they're going to be quality NFLers. Like I can already tell you those two are going to be good linemen in the future. They play like it. They might have a little bit of rough patches here. They'll be good. Dotson's been interesting. He's kind of been in this position where he's flanked by 2 inexperienced guys, and he's trying to do too much because he's trying to help out Moore. He's trying to help out Green. Sometimes K-Dot just needs to be K-Dot and focus on him. You know what I mean? I mean, he's trying to do too much right now, I think. So I think he'll get better too. But he's trying right now to do a little bit too much to try to compensate for others on his side and the inexperience when he himself hasn't played much either. Remember, Dotson only started 4 games last year. And he was great, but for Dotson, you have to make sure that you're just playing like how you did last year. You can't pick up the slack for others. You are not in that position yet. You yourself are still trying to learn the NFL. It's only your 6th start in the NFL. So you can't be compensating for Dan Moore and Kendrick Green right now. It's not what you are. Trey Turner, mixed bag. I don't think he's going to get better, but I also don't think his play right now is bad. So I think Trey Turner's fine. He'll be fine. As far as Chooks Okorafor, I mean, he's been bad. I think everyone on the line was bad yesterday. So I'm not going to, potently absolve everyone else. I think everyone else was bad, but I think there's upside elsewhere. On especially from Green on that left side. But when you look at Chooks, it's the same stuff he had in year 1, in year 2, in year 3. The footwork is an issue. He doesn't have consistent leverage. He's a massive issue. I think it doesn't matter what side he plays, left tackle or right tackle. So all I say is when Zach Banner comes back, it would be my preference that they would put Banner in the lineup over Chooks. I think he's an issue. I think he's the biggest issue on the line right now. I do think people are kind of scapegoating him as like, well, if they take him out of the lineup, the O-line's magically going to get better. Well, Joe Haig's your backup. I like Chooks better than Joe Haden. I'm sorry. I'm not playing Joe Haden. But I think he's part of the problem, but taking him out isn't a magical potion. And I really want to emphasize that. He's an issue. He's probably my biggest issue on the line. But just throwing Banner in there doesn't necessarily mean this O-line is suddenly magically good.
Well, they hardly played together in the preseason. That didn't help. They weren't together in training camp because someone was always hurt. So that didn't help. But do you think maybe by mid-season they might start to gel?
Yeah, I do. And this is exactly the upside of a young offensive line is you have guys like Moore, Dotson, and Green, who are still young and trying to work together and trying to build off each other. And when they start to figure things out, you see that there might be potential there, right? So I think, mid-season to late season, this O-line can play well. The issue is Ben going to get there? Right? Is Ben going to get there?
Might
if he
be
gets hit
Mason
as much as he did last week, I don't know if Ben's going to get there. So Mason might be on standby, to be quite frank with you. And then we're one snap away from Dwayne Haskins taking over. So you never know. I think they can improve for the reasons I stated. I think they have upside there, and plus they're going to get Banner back at some point this season. And I liked what I saw to Zach Banner this summer. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do. But you got to make sure your quarterback gets there first.
So with all the injuries, we hear that Deontay's might not be serious. TJ Watts might not be serious. We're still not sure about Bush or Hayden, but that doesn't sound too serious. But Alualu is basically might be gone for the season, might be gone for a long time. Who replaces him? Is it going to be Wormley?
Davis and Bugs are your two guys. I would guess Davis and Bugs. And that's cool to me. I loved Carlos Davis last year. He was in his limited snaps, you could see the potential. He was just very raw, but you could see him. He had a hot motor. He's explosive. He looked much better this summer than he did last year. Very excited to see him. I'm excited to see what he can do in more playing time. In Bugs, he's serviceable. He's a serviceable run stopper. He's not a great pass rusher, but Bugs is serviceable. Now their main two are obviously Hayward and Wormley. That is your two guys until Tuitt gets back in the lineup. And when they go into sub packages and play in 3-tech, expect it to be Wormley and Hayward, instead of Hayward and Alualu. But right now, I think that's your two guys. Tuitt will come back, obviously, and shift that lineup yet again. And in that case, then we can see Wormley shift in, I think. And that's when you see Wormley maybe take over.
Now they really need Tuitt to come back. Whenever Hayden is out of the lineup, it seems like the secondary just, I don't want to say falls apart, but it suffers. Is he like the veteran presence signal caller or something? Like, why is he so important?
He is the smartest guy potentially in that room. Either him or Minka. And he is just so smart. and what he does, and he's been around the league so much that when you look at how they play their zone coverages, he opens up the Pandora's box of what they can do. So they can do these complex coverages because they know Joe Haden has his side locked down, and they know what Joe's going to do. And they can do all these great things because Joe knows what Joe's going to do. And they can trust Joe to play at a good level. He doesn't have to be elite. He isn't elite, but he's good, and he's very, very serviceable, and he'll make big plays for you. So when Joe Haden goes out, you lose that veteran flexibility, and you have, Cam Sutton, who's very smart as well. But then you have James Pierre on the other side. So you can't do as much because Pierre is a very inexperienced UDFA. He's just coming into his second year. So Hayden unlocks their scheme. He allows them to do so many disguises and kind of play with that middle of the field more because the boundary doesn't have to be a worry for them.
Yeah. Yeah. We will see. It's let's just say the Bengals are not exactly a lock. This is not going to be nothing's a lock right now. It's funny. They beat the Bills and they look amazing. And now we're wondering if they can beat the Bengals. That's where we're at. And that's the NFL, right?
And we don't know what year 2 Joe Burrow looks like just completely yet. Either he's just getting comfortable coming off, his knee surgery. So if he has his year 2 leap, the Bengals could be much better than expected as well. So don't disclose that. And, Chase just feeling his rhythm out, and they still have a talented wide receiving core with Boyd and T. Higgins. So, and Joe Mixon's obviously still there as well. So this is a team, the Bengals are obviously going to be a tough out, I think.
Could be very interesting. All right, sir. So where can people get more of your work, find out how to access your stuff?
Yeah, they can find me at Nick_Farabaugh on Twitter. Read my stuff over at Steelers Now. I write about the Steelers there, and check out Pitt stuff. I'm going to log this in. Locked On Pitt. Make sure to listen to it. So check it out.
Just started that, huh? Locked On Pitt.
Yep, Locked On
Very
Pitt.
cool. How's the podcast business going?
It's going well, man. And I love talking about Pitt, breaking it down and everything. It's every day, every weekday, I should say. Maybe a special episode. I had a special Saturday episode to get some things off my chest about that Western Michigan loss. But we're talking about it every day. So try and give you special insight there. So, man, make sure to check out Locked On Pitt on all the platforms you might want to listen to them.
My goodness, that game was so frustrating. We thought this year would be different, and it's still early, but my goodness, it's the same thing with Pitt. They beat a good team, and we don't even know if Tennessee is that good, but they beat a good team, and then they lose to a not so good team, which actually might be actually a good team. I mean, but my goodness, it's the same thing. They're so disappointing.
They are, and it's just like you have to hear. You just expect it. It is what it is. Honestly, at this point, it's like
I'm so disappointed in Narduzzi. I thought he was going to be the guy. What did the Western Michigan coach say that like they knew exactly what they would do because they haven't changed anything in 5 or 6 years?
Yep. He said, I was at Syracuse in 2015, so I knew what they would do in 2021.
Oh my
not
God.
Great. Yeah, not great.
It's just, and I mean, they're basically stuck with Narduzzi, right? I mean, he's not going anywhere.
Probably not for a year or two at least. So, yeah. Too much of a buyout, right? They just bought out Stallings. Capel's here getting bagged. Narduzzi got a raise.
Right. They just signed him to a big contract not that long ago. So it's like, we are stuck with this. I hope that he got embarrassed, because that is pretty damning when you say we knew it exactly what you're gonna do because you don't change. So hopefully that was like a smack in the face to him, because it's not the offense. The offense put up 41 points. That's fine. It's the defense that he's supposed to be a defensive specialist genius. Crap, you give it 44 points.
Exactly. And that's the whole thing. His scheme just doesn't work in the modern NCAA anymore. So I don't know how they're going to fix that completely.
I don't know how I became a Pitt fan, but it's a curse. Like,
yep.
I listed all the good things about Pitt that have happened in the last 40 years, and it averages out to be like once every 5 years something really good happens. So It's a curse, but
They're due for something, I guess. Here,
I
Coastal
guess.
in 3 years, so they're due for something soon.
I guess. All right, sir. Hey, thanks so much for the time.
Yep. Thanks for having me on.
All right, I'll see you.
I see you.